Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Boy, 2018 me probably won't like this episode. And there are a couple of new faces that I've been seeing that probably won't like this episode too. That's because we're in the time period where we're getting the post-election bump in the view count and whatever. I guess pre-election, not post-election. But anyways, let's just not dilly-dally. Let's just get right into the news. First, coming from a Latin American left-wing leader, Rafael Correa, because the U.S. has hit him with travel bans. As the article states, the Biden administration on Wednesday imposed visa bans on former Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa, his vice president, and their immediate families for corruption. The State Department announced that Correa and his one-time deputy, Jorge Glass, will no longer be eligible to enter the United States. The ban also applies to their spouses and children. Correa served as Ecuador's president from 2007 until 2017, adopting political positions often at odds with U.S. policies, and notably opening Ecuador's embassy in London to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange while he was still wanted by the U.S. Correa was convicted in absentia on corruption charges in Ecuador in 2020 and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. He has lived in exile in Belgium since 2017. Correa and Glass abused their positions as former president of Ecuador and former vice president of Ecuador, respectively, by accepting bribes, including through political contributions, in exchange for granting favorable government contracts, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said. The United States stands with Ecuadorians, including members of civil society, law enforcement, and investigative journalists, committed to increasing government transparency and holding corrupt public officials accountable. Yeah, those are some words that have definitely been stated. The first thing that I think a lot of us are going to be laughing at is just the notion the U.S. is going to be Rafael Correa's corrupt. How dare you? Wag your fingers. And that one part was he used his position in power to get give favorable contracts through political contributions. It's I wonder if there are any officials in the United States that have done anything of the sort and have faced no repercussions for their actions. Let's say hypothetically the former vice president of the United States had a military contract company and then pushed the United States president to enter into a war that we had no business being a part in. I'm sure if that happened in the United States, that person will be held into immense scrutiny and will not be praised by any future president whatsoever. Yeah, that'll totally happen. However, there is another aspect of this. You see, while I was looking into this, I decided to finally look into because I know that Rafael Correa has had accusations of corruption. Every Latin American left-wing leader has been accused of corruption. So basically, I went to find out, is there truth to the case? And when doing research, I found out that in June of this year, the guy who sentenced Correa, Wilman Terán, listen to this. Wilman Terán accuses Attorney General and the former president of the Supreme Court of sending him emissaries to sentence Rafael Correa. In his appearance before the Oversight Committee of the National Assembly, former president of the Judicial Council Wilman Terán accused the Attorney General Diana Salazar and the former president of the National Court of Justice, Ivan Seclida, of having sent emissaries to sentence former President Rafael Correa in 2012-2016 case. So he's literally stated that he's just openly admitted, I was forced to make this criminal proceeding against Correa and choose to go this certain way. What? The dude just openly admitted, these charges were trumped up, and now we're going to hold him accountable to these charges that have been trumped up. Are you serious? Well, boy, that's just wow. This is weird. It's just he was sentenced. It's basically what happened with Lula. Where it was we admitted that the case was not as legitimate as we thought. And now, it's now great. That'll definitely go wonders for a lot of things. It's clearly just red baiting and, kind of expected from the United States. Speaking of a Latin American leftist and criminal proceedings, we're about to get into a really big one. And it's a sad day. This story came out literally right as I was about to record this, and let's just get to it. The Bolivian prosecutor's office issues an arrest warrant against Evo Morales for alleged sexual offenses. The Public Prosecutor's Office of Bolivia announced that it will issue an arrest warrant against former President Evo Morales, who governed Bolivia from 2006 to 2019, to compel him to testify in the context of an investigation into alleged crimes of human trafficking and statutory rape relating to a minor with whom he allegedly had a child. Sandra Gutierrez, the Department of Prosecutor of Tarija, declared that what corresponds is that to issue the arrest warrant, since they, Morales and the other individuals being investigated, have been duly notified without any violation of their rights. Complaint against former president claimed that the victim was part of a youth group created during his presidency called Generación Evo. Although Morales was summoned to testify this Friday in Tarija, where the case is being investigated, his defense presented a memoriam arguing that a constitutional rules establish that the case should be handled in Cochabamba, where the former president resides. Also, social organizations aligned with Morales have warned that if the arrest warrant is executed, they will initiate a national roadblock in protest. This former president, who has distanced himself from the current government of Luis Arce, has described the situation as political persecution and has claimed that he has the support of more than 200 lawyers willing to defend him for free. And this is the thing. Oh boy, I guess we have to talk about this again, because I made this before, where I talked about the allegations of Evo Morales in the multiple cases of this situation around Evo Morales, and I didn't want to say anything. I didn't know much. There were some elements of the case that just didn't. There were some elements of the case that just had a lot of gray areas, and Evo needs to do that. Evo needs to come clean. He needs to come over. He needs to do that. Like, if there is nothing to hide, Evo has nothing to fear. And that's one thing that I also gave criticism to Mas in the previous episode, which it seems like it can't change. This investigation is continuing under Mas presidencies, under Mas administrations. And that's actually good. It's like, yeah, let's finally figure out the case. If Evo Morales is, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting thing, because while I was writing an episode about a ranking of the Pink Tide leaders, and I mean, you know how it is. If we would go purely by administrations, Evo Morales would be near the top. But if this is we need to figure out, let the case go. Let the case. When I say let the case go, I mean let the case go on. Let the case move forth. If Evo did something wrong, I want him held accountable. And if he didn't do anything wrong, I want him exonerated. The unfortunate case of this is that a lot of people are just going to fall under the same lines that they've had for a long time. People who have hated Evo Morales, the second that this case was brought up, they immediately jumped on it without looking into it any further. And the people who are super supportive of Evo Morales jumped purely to defend him. I'm different. I say, let's see the case. Let everything play out. Let's do it. Let's see the whole thing play out. Again, if he's innocent, then let him be exonerated. And if he's guilty, then let him be punished. Next story, let's talk about Mark Cuban. Now, this is the thing that I've been seeing. I don't know if this is the same with you, but I've been recently getting a lot of stuff about Mark Cuban in my feed. He'll be popping up in news articles and news things, and be like, oh, I'm super pro Kamala, and he'll say all these bad things about Donald Trump, and he'll be super pro Kamala. It's I really didn't understand. I knew that Mark Cuban was a Democrat, but he was kind of a standard business oriented Democrat. But I was why is he super all in on Kamala? And I was so confused. And then randomly it's he just revealed his intentions, because he posted, he did an interview where he basically said, yeah, but if I were in Kamala's position, I'd get rid of FTC chair Lina Khan, basically trying to make the claim that she's the reason why Kamala isn't doing so hot, and that if she gets rid of her, then maybe, hypothetically, Kamala will be doing better. To which a lot of people started immediately going hey, that's stupid. Why would you think that? Why would you think that? Including Bernie and AOC. Some people then turn around and tried to shit on Bernie and AOC for calling out this fact. I don't know who. Maybe they're people who are related to this video, but let's set the point. I didn't know much about Lina Khan, to be honest. From a quick glance at her wiki, she seems to be fine. Yeah, she seems to be a pretty good candidate, a pretty good person for FTC chair. She busted a record number of trusts, so that's a good thing. She also apparently describes herself as a member of the new Brandis movement, or Neo-Brandis movement. It's known as an antitrust academic and political movement in the United States, which argues that excessively centralized private power is dangerous for economic, political, and social reasons. It was originally described as hipster antitrust, also the Columbia or neo-progressive antitrust. But yeah, she seemed to be a pretty good candidate. And that's why Mark Cuban wants to get rid of her. Like, I was, like, super confused. Like, why is Mark Cuban acting all base all of a sudden? It's like, oh, that's why. He's trying to, like, sneak in and do, like, an anti-base thing. I see how it is, Mark. I see how it is. It ain't gonna work, my friend. Speaking of friend, the next 3 stories actually have a theme, but I'm not gonna tell you what the theme is quite yet, because this theme is stupid. Like, the theme is stupid when I get into the first story. You might have seen this. If you remember, the Internet Archive has recently been faced with a hack, and it's a very sad story. Like, right after they faced that massive lawsuit that greatly hurt the Internet Archive, now there is a massive cyber attack that revealed the details of 31 million people who work on the Internet Archive and who have registered accounts on the Internet Archive have been accessed. And a lot of the Internet Archive is just literally down. I noticed this just purely because I was like doing research for a project, and then I clicked like a link, and then it was like, huh? It's like the Internet Archive just didn't work for some reason. And the group that has claimed responsibility for the attack is a group called SN Black Meta. A group that I'll just be real. These guys are 100% up. Because their reason makes no fucking sense. They claim that the reason why they attacked the Internet Archive and took it down and tried to, like, destroy it is because that they are fighting for Palestinian rights. And that since the Internet Archive is owned by the United States and Israel, that they need to take them down. Which makes absolutely no sense, considering the Internet Archive is not owned by the United States nor Israel. It is a private enterprise, and its pure function is to be an archivist. That's literally it. To which the group literally tried to, like, respond to all the criticisms that have been levied towards them by making a tweet that is fucking stupid. Like, everybody who's been calling them out, who are actually, like, actual pro-Palestinian activists, here's what SN Black Men responded with. Imagine a group of children dealing with psychological and mental disorders, confused about their identity, suffering from deviant tendencies, telling us what's right and wrong and how to help Palestine the correct way. Keep your advice and petty comments to yourself. You are a bunch of teenagers addicted to Netflix, free platform self-harm, and dreaming of the American dream. Now, you may be wondering, why did I do that in a Russian accent? Well, it's because SM Black Meta is a Russian group. Like, I mean, this isn't a secret. They're literally a Russian group. They have like a fucking like video they posted that shows their intentions, and and it's literally in Russian. Their location is set in Russia. They're a Russian group, and they're clearly doing this just for fucking fake. Like, they're clearly an op. Like, they're clearly an op that was made to hurt the Palestinian movement in the United States, to sow discord. That's clearly the intention. Right before the election, I might add. And if that didn't pick you up, the common theme for these 3 stories is Palestine. The next one is actually good news about Palestine. It is the Uncommitted group has officially, but not officially, made an endorsement. It says right here, the Uncommitted National Movement, a pro-Palestinian political group opposing the Biden administration's support for Israel, encouraged its followers to back Vice President Harris's presidential bid over former President Donald Trump's less than 1 month ahead of Election Day. The group stopped short of issuing a formal endorsement of the Democratic nominee, but in a video posted Tuesday on social media platform, the group's co-founder Lexi Zayden outlined the reasons why she thinks Trump would be worse for the group's anti-war agenda than Harris would be. Zayden painted the election next month as a binary choice, stating in the video, who will be elected in November is clear. It's Trump or it's Harris. We have to orient less towards who is the better candidate and more towards what is the better anti-war approach in building our collective power. Zayden continued, it's clear Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be doing everything in his power to get Trump elected, and we have to do everything in our power to stop him. Yeah, I mean, again, this just seems really easy to me. I don't understand why this is complicated. Israel wants Trump to be the nominee, and there's a explicit reason why they want Trump to be the nominee. Because if Trump is the nominee, then they get to do whatever they want. A lot of people like to try and, but are they doing what they want? No, they aren't doing whatever they want right now. Because if they wanted to do whatever they want, they would have just bombed Gaza, bombed and killed all the Palestinians, and would have been done with it. They would have been done. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do. And Donald Trump has stated that he's going to give him the go-ahead to do it. He stated he wants Benjamin Netanyahu to finish the job. His exact words. And let's quote from Itamar Ben-Gvir, who has openly stated, quote, Israel received the backing to act against Iran. Yeah, they're literally trying to go to war with Iran, which makes sense considering Donald Trump literally wanted to go to war in Iran during his administration. Remember, Donald Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal that was preventing the US and Iran from going to war, and then killed their top general. Donald Trump, like the rest of the Zionist neoconservative elite, they want to go to war with Iran. That's what they want. I will say this with 100% confidence. If Kamala Harris is elected, she will not go to a war with Iran. That is a 100% fact. If Donald Trump is elected, there is a significant chance that we will go to war with Iran. And since you guys seem to not understand, like, the fact, I really don't understand why this is just so fucking hard for people. It's like, this isn't like a secret. Like, Trump is like openly running and campaigning on all these bad, terrible things. And lefties are still trying to, there's still some people on online left that are still trying to pretend like, oh, well, they're still trying to pretend that he's like the same as like other conservative Democrats or like other conservative presidents back in the day. Like they're trying to say that. And it's like, no, this is different. This is massively different. I saw a video literally today where it was literally like Donald Trump literally said that he would, if he ran for president, he would invoke the Alien Act of 1798. Remember, the Alien and Sedition Act. The last time that was enacted in the United States, we got Japanese internment camps. Guys, the Jews are literally running on fucking concentration camps. And you're supposed to, and yet some people are gonna look at me and be like, well, you really forgot about that. You're stupid. It's like, it's just stupid. I don't get it. I do not get it. You guys are just bought and paid for by ops. Like, that's a fact. You're either bought and paid for by an op, or you're just stupid and don't deserve to be taken seriously. Either way, fuck both of you. And the last news story comes from something very interesting, which actually kind of ties into the main topic. I wrote this in the main topic, and then I found this news story, and it's like, okay, so the United Democracy Project has formally launched a campaign for the general election. They have formally made an announcement about like they're running ads against a general election candidate. That candidate being David Kim running against Jimmy Gomez. AIPAC's United Democracy Project began independent expenditures this week in support of Representative Jimmy Gomez and against the progressive Democratic opponent David Kim, who has advocated for a quote-unquote far-left foreign policy platform that includes cutting off aid to Israel and using U.S. pressure to compel Israel into changing its government and supporting the boycott, divestment, and sanctions unit. Kim, an attorney, is running against Gomez for the third time in the Los Angeles-based 34th Congressional District. Kim lost to Gomez by around 3,000 votes in the 2022 general election and 12,000 votes in 2020. Kim has challenged Gomez himself from the left. Kim's Israel policy would place him on the quote-unquote far left of the House political spectrum. UDP made an initial investment of nearly $400,000 on Monday, including both ads and direct mailers, supporting Gomez and opposing Kim, according to the Federal Election Commission filing. It's UDP's first spending of the general election. And there's a reason why they should be scared of David Kim. As the story itself stated, he lost by only 3,000 votes. And in the races, the margins have gotten significantly smaller. Again, as the story stated, 12,000 votes in 2020, 3,000 votes in 2022. In 2020, and I think in 2022, the races were so close to the call, they literally held off from announcing the results until later. Guys, I'm putting links for David Kim in the description, in the comments, everything. A reminder, David Kim. He is our key. He is the key. Guys, spam all the big name streamers to try and get him to support David Kim. I'm going to try and get Vosh to try and get Progressive Victory to try and get David Kim. David Kim, he is the key. He is the key. He is the key. If we need David Kim, I've already endorsed him in the past, but I'm making it abundantly clear again. I'm endorsing David Kim for this bid. He is 100% a great candidate. And we need, and guys, let's just try and get the net loss down to 1. Like, I mean, the net, if he loses, the net loss will just be 1 instead of 2. We need Kim, please, David Kim, please, please. And you'll see why this has in the main topic when we get into the main topic of this video. I hate Jill Stein now. It really sucks to say that, because Jill Stein, to a degree, I do owe Jill Stein for my political awakening. But this election cycle in particular has really, really, really hated Jill Stein. It's been a long ride. Like, if you don't know my history, okay, so after 2016, I was all in on Bernie, and then Bernie lost, and I was like, he's don't endorse Hillary. And then I jumped on Jill Stein because it's like, yeah, Jill Stein, great, wonderful. She's Green Party nominee. And it was like I think I actually was initially kind of like tied with both Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. I kind of like both of them at the time, because it's because I think at the time it was like more of the socialist, like weed, and she's kind of why I kind of like got an interest in third parties in general. But like, yeah, genuinely, I just don't like her anymore. Like, I mean, even earlier this year, I would have said that my dislike for Jill, like, I wouldn't even say earlier this, even to the point where I was like, earlier this year, I wouldn't have said that I hate Jill Stein. Like, I was like, I like Jill Stein. I still like Jill Stein, even as I was kind of like shifting away from like, no, I was gonna vote for her. Even earlier this year, when I was like, well, I would have said it. Well, I still like her and she's kind of cool, but I'm just thinking about this strategically. But like, over the course of this election, no, I just hate her now. I hate her. I will 100% say without a shadow of a doubt, I hate Jill Stein. This cycle has shown me just how fucking trash Jill Stein is. And it led me to like relook at some old things in the past that kind of like made me kind of just like generally go like, yeah, that's kind of like weird. Okay, these are the first things I'm going to say. Like, these are things that I didn't write down in my notes or anything. But, like, these are things that I just wanted to say off the top of my head. Because, like, these are some old things in the past that I kind of, like, just floating in my head that I just remembered again. And they're like, let's just talk about this. Just weird things about Jill Stein. Like, okay, so, like, in this whole new... Like, when I knew that this topic was going to be what I was going to talk about, I looked at old John Oliver's segment about Jill Stein. Because there's some things that he said in it that are, like, kind of cringe. But, like, there's some things that he said about that are interesting. One big thing was the fact that Jill Stein, remember, very early on, she kind of like towed the line of like vaccines cause autism thing. She kind of like briefly talked about that for a little bit. She did 9/11 trutherism for a little bit. Bit weird. She also like completely changed her Brexit stance randomly. Like literally, it's literally like a funny like segment where it's like Jill Stein tweeted saying like she was 100% supportive of the Brexit referendum and she believed in 100% support of it. And then the next day, she deleted that tweet and then posted a new tweet saying, well, she's like, I stand with the UK Green Party that opposed the Brexit referendum. It's like, okay, that's weird. And here's one segment that I just remember today. I think I have it linked in like, because I posted like the free and equal debates on like a fucking in a playlist on my channel. But there is a playlist of the free and equal debates, I think. And I think this debate is on here. It's a debate that's hosted by Ralph Nader. And he has 3 other presidential candidates. Like, there are 4 presidential candidates that were invited. Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, Virgil Goode, and Rocky Anderson. He has them all, talk. They, like, debate the issues. But then he does this part where he asks the 4 candidates to ask each other questions. Like, it's a common thing for, like, a debate, especially on a smaller scale, where the candidates will literally ask each other questions. And, like, he basically just had them like, hey, what are your questions? And then when it got to Jill Stein responded with, can I ask a question to Ralph Nader? And he responded with, no, I'm not a candidate. It's like, what the what the fuck? What? You know, she kind of has that, like, vibe, like, the hippie, quirky, like, Jewish grandma. That's kind of like her, that was kind of like her thing. That was kind of like her thing. It's a similar thing with Marianne. Marianne and her have kind of like that same, like, hippie-dippy grandma vibe. I noticed it before with her, with the way they talked. I was kind of like, I was a little confused because, like, they talked really similar, and I was like, huh? That's weird. Then I looked it up, and they're both, like, Jewish. They were both raised in Jewish households, so it's like, oh, okay. So they have, like, similar manners of speeches because, like, they're from, like, they both come from, like, Jewish people who came from, like, the same similar areas. Okay, so now you might notice that I hate both Marianne Williamson and Jill Stein, but don't worry, I love Bernie Sanders, so that balances it out. And there are a lot of other Jewish individuals I also really love. Victor Berger, he's Jewish, right? Meyer London, Claudia Scheinbaum. You know, I love Jewish people. But Jill Stein and Marianne Williamson, you know, they're kind of cringe. And one of the big things that has kind of made me really hate Jill Stein to an extent is this this is one big thing that's really been fucking bugging me. And Jill Stein has, of course, fallen into the crowd where she attacks AOC and the squad for supporting genocide. Because I guess I should mention, one of the big things that she's been using for her 2024 campaign, like, is the fact that, you know, she's running on, like, the Palestinian issue. So she's trying to make the claim that, oh, other people aren't as good as Palestine then as the Greens, and has made the claim that AOC and the squad are supporting genocide. Not only is that remotely, like, the furthest thing from the truth, like, the absolute furthest thing from the truth, anybody who even is considered, like, anybody who even says that is just immediately just like, you are disqualified from holding any positions of, like, any sensible anything. Like, I've heard similar things before about other people. It's like, oh, there's no member of the U.S. Congress that is good on Israel. It's like, Rashida Tlaib, like, no, she's a colonizer too. It's like, okay. There are also some people who like to make them Israeli left. Are you crazy? It's like, okay, I guess fuck Hadash Tal then. Okay. Well, Hadash Tal would be good if they weren't. They're not Zionist. Hadash Tal is an anti-Zionist party. What are you talking about? These guys don't know what we're talking about, huh? I think we're going to get a recurring theme going on. But not only is this remotely far from the truth, the squad has done way more for Palestine and every single other issue than Jill Stein and the Green Party has. Literally every single issue that Jill Stein and the Green Party have advocated for, the squad has done way more on those issues than the Green Party has in their entire 20-plus year life cycle. Medicare for all, Palestine, Green New Deal, everything. Speaking of the Green New Deal, this is a funny thing that I've been seeing recently, where some Greens are trying to rehash a stupid argument that was made in 2018. I called out the fact that it was a stupid argument in 2018 when this first happened, and it's just a stupid argument. Okay, so this is the argument. This is how fucking strange the Green Party's arguments are. AOC stole the Green New Deal. That's your argument, that she stole the Green New Deal? Because if we're going to play the stealing game, let's do a little bit of this. If you're going to do the stealing game, if you want to focus on the Green Party itself for the stealing game, Green Party founder Howie Hawkins, before he decided to make his first run for office, and before he founded the Green Party, he worked on a campaign he worked on some, like, random Senate campaign in 1972. It was like some guy in Vermont. I don't know if you've heard of him. He worked for this guy called Bernie Sanders. And then after Bernie ran that campaign and did a good job in that state, magically Howie Hawkins has those same viewpoints and decides to found a political party about those viewpoints. I wonder where he got the ideas from. And if you want to be technical, Bernie Sanders took his platform from Eugene Debs, who took his platform from Karl Marx. This is the... Like, that's how stupid the fucking argument is. It's like, that's your argument. They're stealing the platform. Yeah, that's kind of the point of a platform. We kind of, like, take what's currently existing, we build off of it, and we kind of, like, move forward as a society. And also, again, if we want to just go specifically for the Green New Deal, it's the Green New Deal. It is a ripoff of FDR's New Deal policies, which borrowed elements from the Socialist Party's platform, the Workers' Unemployment Insurance Bill of the Communist Party USA, the Share Our Wealth program, the Hams and Eggs movement, the Townsend plan, and many other plans that were proposed before FDR moved for his plans. Again, who the fuck cares about credit? Who cares about, like, the Green Party? Like, we made the Green New Deal. We should be... Like, guys, I don't care if you made the Green New Deal or if fucking Santa Claus made the Green New Deal. I care if a Green New Deal gets passed. That's what I care about. And guess what? Green Party ain't doing shit to help the Green New Deal pass, because let's do the calculations real quick. Let's do like a little quick, calculations real quick. I got a calculator right here. I got a calculator right here. Let's do the math real quick. Let's see, how many members of the Green Party are elected to the U.S. Congress again? 0. How many members of the Squad are in Congress again? Oh, that's right, 9. Now, refresh my memory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What comes after 9 again? Is it 0? No. 0 comes before 9. In fact, it comes before any numbers, because it means the absence of a value. You know, like the Green Party. Like, if you're in a world where you genuinely believe that AOC and Bernie are no different than Hillary Clinton or Obama or any of the other Democrats, then, like, trash. You go in trash now, because you do not exist to me relevant. You are not relevant. You are thrown in the same trash can that I throw QAnoners in, because you are so removed from reality that you do not deserve to be part of actual intellectual discourse. And again, it's not just them. Like, I'll get in a little bit later, but like currently, one of their other targets after AOC and Bernie is Cornel West. They fucking hate Cornel West. They think that he is a shit. Like literally. Now they make like Jill Stein has like if you don't remember, Jill Stein tried to get Cornel West to run with the Green Party and tried to be his campaign manager. Then he left the Green Party. And now, Jill Stein is pissy at him and is now trying to claim that Cornel West is actually running a vanity bid and that he is actually a Democratic shill. This is a very explicit thing that happened recently, where a General Baraka, the former VP nominee of the Green Party, claimed that Cornel West is actually a shill for the Democratic Party. Yeah, you want to know why he thinks that he's a shill for the Democratic Party? Like, think about it. Like, let's think about this real quick. Cornel West is running against the Democratic Party. He's running for president against the Democrats. How is he a shill for the Democrats again? Well, it's because Cornel West stated, and I quote, "Although neither Harris nor Trump give a damn about the nearly 20,000 precious Palestinian children slaughtered in less than a year or priceless U.S. children, disproportionately black, living in abject poverty, I do acknowledge that an anti-Trump vote for Harris is not identical to an anti-Harris vote for Trump in the swing states." All he did was simply acknowledge the fact that someone who votes for Harris to prevent Trump is different than someone who votes for Trump to prevent Harris. You know, because it's a fact. You know, someone who wants to prevent Trump from getting into office probably is like, hey, I don't like that whole fascism thing, or I want someone who doesn't want to kill the Palestinians immediately once getting into office. And you know what's the real kicker, the real irony about all this shit? Like, when Jill Stein and trying to, like, throw stones at the fucking, like, at fucking AOC, like, you guys are just capitalist reformers who work for the duopoly and blah, blah, blah. All these same things can be said about fucking Jill Stein, and have been said about Jill Stein. The PSL posted a meme underneath the Jill Stein thing. It was like, do you really want to support a capitalist reformer like Jill Stein? It's like, you live in a world where you think that Jill Stein is a capitalist reformer. What? And the Freedom Socialist Party, a smaller socialist political party, stated, like they posted a message stating the main problem, as the FSP sees it, is that neither West nor Stein is clearly and consistently anti-capitalist. A long list of good reforms is nice, but candidates who want to be the true alternative for the working people need to point to necessary fundamental system upending change and organize day in and day on to build a mass movement with this aim. Otherwise, these lists of desirable forms will remain forever just a pipe dream. Like, Jill Stein gets shit for getting 2% of the votes. That is the world that, this is the thing. This is the perpetual thing. Leftists want, like, there are a lot of lefties who literally want to live in a perpetual world where they just think winning equals you're a fraud. Literally, it's like, if you win, you are a fraud. If you are successful, you are a fraud. You are a shill. You are not actually a left-winger. I know this because this has happened many times in the past, many times in the present, and forever. every single mudslinging that has been thrown at AOC, thrown at Bernie, can be thrown to literally everybody. It has been thrown against Eugene V. Debs. It has been thrown against AMLO. It has been thrown against Lula. It has been thrown against Hugo Chavez. It has been thrown against fucking Martin Luther King. Remember, there are people who literally looked at Martin Luther King Jr. and said, like, no, this guy's a fraud because he was successful in his endeavors. That's true. That's true. Hell, fucking, like, the Socialist Party kind of fell apart because of this drive. There were two major factions within the Socialist Party through various means. There were the more radical members of the party, and there were the more reformist members of the party. And the reformists were always shat on because they actually got elected and had to make decisions that weren't even necessarily the best decisions. But as elected officials, they had to make tough decisions. And those got them thrown out of the party. And a lot of people like to try to make a claim, like, this is the fucking dumbest thing. Like, they like to make the claim that, oh, the reason why they're successful and we're not is because they're actually controlled opposition. Like, that's what they genuinely like to believe. Like, the reason why they're successful and we're not is because we are controlled opposition. The reason why they get the silver carpet, they get the red carpet rolled over to them, and we don't, is because they are actually controlled opposition. It's like, first of all, that's not true. The AOC and the Squad do not get the red carpet rolled under them. They get treated like shit. AOC, during her first year of Congress, was one of the least effective members because of her, like, radical movements. AOC and the Squad, like, literally the first year, like the first term after they got elected, they all got primary challenges. I think with the exception of Ayanna. I think Ayanna's the only one who didn't get a primary challenge in the first year because she was literally just kind of like a left progressive. AOC got Michelle Caruso Cabrera. I think Ilhan Omar got, I think it was Antoine the first time. Yeah, I think it was Antoine. And Brenda Jones got to run against Rashida Tlaib, because she had the seat prior to Rashida Tlaib. And notice, of the three, Rashida Tlaib got the one with the biggest primary challenge. Interesting. Then when they increased their ranks, more primary challenges happened. All of a sudden, like, I think literally all of them, except for, again, Ayanna, got primary challenges again. If I remember correctly. Maybe AOC didn't get a primary challenge at that time, but, like, regardless, a lot of them did get primary challenges. They get challenged, they get run against. You really think they get treated like the red carpet? And a similar thing is, like, comes from how Jill Stein has tried to describe the Working Families Party, making the claim that, again, that they're just Democrats. Like, they don't challenge the two-party duopoly. They're actually just Democrats, and they're just another battle line for the Democrats. They don't confront power, and they get all the nice treatments. As stated before, that's not true. That's not true. Doing well doesn't mean that you are controlled opposition. It means you did well. All you're saying is you're perpetual losers and you don't know how to win. That's what you're saying. But also, it's not true because the Working Families Party is treated like shit. They were such a thorn in Andrew Cuomo's side that literally he formed another political party, the Women's Equality Party, to siphon off support. If you don't know why, WFP, WEP, it looks similar. He wanted to get people to shift their support to the Women's Equality Party. Literally, before the Working Families Party came around, they had a separate battle line that literally was just Democrat battle line extraordinaire, the Liberal Party. The Working Families Party runs primary bids against, like, mainstream Democrats. During COVID-19, Andrew Cuomo used a legal loophole to try and kick the Working Families Party off the ballot. In the 2020 election, Cuomo tried to raise the ballot threshold to remain a party in New York from 50,000 votes to 130,000 votes. Coincidentally, the election right before that, the Working Families Party got 114,478 votes. I'm sure that they're not related at all. Yes, they're treated slightly different because they're, they're the party that runs a different strategy. Yes, they're treated slightly different, but they're not treated well. A similar vein is Butch Ware, her VP nominee, who has also not painted the party in a good light, because his whole shtick is basically say inflammatory things and kind of hope for the best. John Baraka kind of had the similar shtick prior, except for a certain interview where he was suspiciously he was suspiciously quiet in one interview. We'll get to that interview in a second. But he has, and I gotta say, it does kind of come off as two-faced to a degree, where it's like literally, I guess I'll explain the story. After the tragic execution of Marcellus Williams, Butch Ware published a video on his Twitter that was basically like, saying that, like, he was like, sad that it happened, but then he was also making the claim, like, where are the black abolitionists now? Where are they? Like, being like really incendiary to like a bunch of like prominent black prison abolitionists. And one thing he said, it was like the two that he particularly said, was like, where the fuck are you, Angela Davis? And where are you, Olayemi Olurin? Trying to make the claim that I guess that they supported Marcellus's execution or something. Like, what? Exactly what about either of them makes you think that they support the what? Angela Davis didn't respond because she doesn't use his Twitter and she has like a real fucking life. But Olaya Olurin did respond, and responded with a very good thing by pointing out the fact that, that's very weird. You talk shit about me now, but like in the DMs, you were basically like sucking me off. Like, that's always how it is with these people. It's just so fucking stupid. There's another example of this I'm gonna get to when I get into a big reason why I kind of like really went from like that. I think one thing that kind of like inspired me to make a video that. Okay, I'll just get onto it. Some other weird things that he said is that he pointed out Kamala Harris is, quote, married to a Zionist. Shirt tug, tugging on collar, sweat dropping from brow. Look, I mean, that's a very interesting thing to say. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily know Doug's particular views on the Israel-Palestine conflict. I know that he is supportive of the idea of a Jewish state, of Israel. Like, he wants the idea of Israel to remain a state at one point. So I guess technically he is technically a Zionist, but I'm just saying that does seem like a very weird. Look, it's just very suspicious to say that. I'm just saying, it just sounds very weird to just say that out of the blue. Also, Kamala Harris is a white supremacist. Yeah, sure, buddy, sure, buddy. Yeah, whatever. I think what he's trying to say is that, if I remember correctly, the video said that because she is Biden's vice presidential nominee and is like supporting of this, then by extension she is a white supremacist. Well, that's very interesting, Butch, because I remember in 2016, Synonym Kinemo Kristen Moyo Wasif Sakuri literally ran as the Green Party candidate. Like, she ran as a Green Party candidate for president in 2016, and then made the claim that Jill Stein and a lot of the Green Party heads are white supremacists in nature because they wouldn't give her fair treatment due to the fact that she was a black woman. So by virtue, Butch, does that make you a white supremacist if she's gonna make the claim about that? Are you a white supremacist now, Butch? Do you stand for that, Butch? He's also called Mehdi Hassan a, quote, house ninja. I wonder what he was actually trying to say. Get this. You want to know why he called him that? Because Mehdi Hassan said that Hamas shouldn't kill civilians. What? Like, I mean, literally, it was in no uncertain terms. He literally said, I do not believe that Hamas should have killed civilians. That's very tragic. And then Butch called him out for it. It's like, no wonder that this dead Palestinian said that you're a sellout. What? When did he, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Mehdi Hassan ever claimed that killing civilians was okay. If that was a position that you assumed he was okay with, then fuck you, you're a monster. I'm not saying nothing. He is the vice presidential nominee of a Jewish woman. But I'm just saying, it does seem a little weird that when it's Israeli citizens, he seems to be okay with them being killed, but when it's Palestinian citizens, he's not okay with them dying. Personally, I don't want any civilians to die. That's just a very hot take on my end, but Alright, so there's actually one video that came out of this cycle that actually really, 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 really made me want to, do something. It actually wanted to make me do something completely different. I guess I'll just say it. Jill Stein and Butch Ware were invited on the Breakfast Club to do an interview. And that interview was so bad that I literally contemplated doing a completely randomly off the script episode. I literally started writing a possible idea for a main series video, because there was like a video slot that I didn't really know exactly where I was going to put. I eventually put the episode on media piracy in that slot. It was going to originally be me doing an analysis of Pancho Villa's like lost film career, but I didn't really feel confident in that video, so then I put the piracy video up instead. But before that, I actually contemplated making a video where I was just gonna look at this interview and then just debunk a lot of the things that have been said in the interview, because Jill Stein said so many things that are just absolutely fucking wrong that I'm just like, how in the fuck did I take her seriously as a candidate when she doesn't know anything about the US political system? Like, the first one that really caught me off guard was when she was asked point blank, how many voting members are in the US House of Representatives? She said 600. This woman has a license to do medicine, people. I mean, I get it, you know, whatever, but like, if I can make fun of Ben Carson for being stupid and being a doctor, then I can make fun of Jill Stein for it too. But the ones that I really wanted to focus on about like specific third-party elements, because she said a lot of things about third parties to try and like, you know, hype up third parties, but again, she doesn't know what they're talking about. And I've sadly parodied some of these talking about before, which is why I'm hopefully going to try and correct the record. That's why I kind of wanted to do it in a main series video, because I know that a lot more people see those and see the podcast. But maybe I will, maybe I won't, probably won't, but, you know, I'll just say them here. First was where she talked about the League of Women Voters. Again, I don't remember if I've talked about this before, I don't think I have, but this is one talking about that I have been relentlessly heard time and time again. That third parties, especially Jill Stein, love to do, where like, they just love to make the League of Women Voters seem like it's this, okay, basically, one of the big talking points is, again, against the Commission for Presidential Debates, which doesn't even exist anymore. It exists, but it also doesn't really do anything anymore because Donald Trump refused to do the debates under the CPD rules. But a lot of third-party activists like to make the claim that the League of Women Voters was this group. It was like this great, like, okay, I remember specifically what she said. She said during the Breakfast Club that previously the League of Women Voters, their rules for the presidential debates were that any candidate who could hypothetically win the presidential election, who could have theoretically won, they were invited on the presidential debate stages. But that since the Democrats and Republicans teamed together to make the Commission for Presidential Debates, they made the rules so high that no third-party candidate can even remotely get on the stage. And that since that, we need to actually do everything in our power to give the League of Women Voters back the right to have presidential debates. Because if they do that, then, magically, third parties will be brought on the stage once more. That is just so fucking wrong. That is like completely, unequivocally, fathomably wrong in every sense of the word. That is complete, utter bullshit. Let's do a quick analysis. The League of Women Voters hosted 9 national televised general election debates in the 3 elections that they held the power to do so. 7 for the presidential elections, 2 for vice presidential debates, of which only 1 had a candidate that wasn't a Democrat or Republican, John B. Anderson, and he was not invited to the debate because he theoretically could have won. It was because he was determined to have an actual chance to win. Because not only did he have ballot access in all 50 states plus DC, he was also polling upwards to 26% of the vote. It wasn't about who theoretically could have won hypothetically in a hypothetical scenario. No, they determined that based on the information that they had, John B. Anderson had an actual shot to win the presidency. Granted, he was an independent candidate, so it was less of a chance than Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, obviously, but they still determined that he had an actual chance to win. And how do I know that it wasn't theoretical? Because in that same cycle, there was another candidate who theoretically could have won because he was on the ballot in all 50 states, Ed Clark. But he wasn't invited because he couldn't actually win. He theoretically could have won, but he couldn't actually win, much like third parties of today. Gary Johnson was on the ballot in all 50 states in 2016 and only got 3.28% of the vote. And that was after he built name recognition of the previous election alongside writing dissatisfaction of the elections of the 2016 election. Like, he was like running as like, oh yeah, I'm not Trump, I'm not Hillary. Boom. It was even after that he only got like 3% of the vote. Jill Stein got significantly less, only 2%. Like, no, not 2%, like 1.something%. So I guess technically, yeah, effectively 2%. And these same rules have continued since the CPD got in control of the debates. Ever since the CPD was held in the debates, want to know how many third-party candidates they invited? They invited one. Ross Perot in 1996. Not 1996, 1992. They invited him, and he got to be on the debate stage. It seems like it didn't magically change, and things drifted. Interesting. Could it possibly be because John B. Anderson and Ross Perot had differences from other third-party candidates? Oh yeah, that's right. They had chances to win and actually earn votes. And Jill, you're not going to get invited to a debate. You're not going to get invited to a general election presidential debate because you have no shot. You have no chance. And how far can we even extend this? How far can we fucking extend this? Like, theoretically, I could win the presidential election. Theoretically, a bunch of people could just randomly go like, you know what? I'm going to vote for Pluribus Unum to win for the presidential election. I'm going to write it in his name so that he wins the presidential election. Theoretically, it could happen. So why am I not invited on the debate stage? Because it theoretically could happen, but it probably won't. In actual logistical sense, it's not going to happen. Much the same way a lot of people like to say, like, oh, well, hypothetically, if a bunch of these like lefties voted for Jill Stein, it's like, yeah, hypothetically, theoretically, we live in a world where real world things happen, real life. And in real life, a lot of people are not going to vote for Jill Stein. You're going to get the Green Party diehards and maybe like some stragglers, but otherwise, Jill Stein is not going to be massively popular. If she was, she'd be polling high. She'd be getting on the debate stage. She'd be there. If she had momentum, she'd be there. The system we have right now does not make it so that Jill Stein has a chance. The next talking point that she got completely wrong is she regurgitated the once third parties get just 5% of the votes, they'll get federal matching funds for the next election, which will help them build the party. First of all, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. What are federal matching funds? Federal matching funds are when the U.S. government gives federal money to a political party based on certain criteria, raising $5,000 in 20 states during the primary, or getting 5% in the general election, which is used basically to prevent the party from going bankrupt. Because let's be real, if the duopoly didn't have that thing, federal matching funds, then they'd go bankrupt as soon as possible. It is calculated by both checking the amount of money you raised during the election, plus adding an additional $250 per contribution. So hypothetically, if I ran as a third-party candidate and won 5% of the votes off of a $1 million campaign with around 2,000 contributors, I'd earn a simple $1,500,000 for my run. Most, if not all, would probably be spent simply going to pay off my debts, balancing the books, etc., which wouldn't actually be used for much. Let's use Jill Stein as an example. If she earned 5% in 2016, she would have earned a whopping $12,766,233.55, of which she'd at most keep $1,266,685. Yeah, it's not really that useful. Like, again, if you're in the duopoly, that makes sense. They get to have massive amounts of money to help raise and do all this other stuff. But she's not going to do that. That's not going to happen. And the money won't magically make your party any better. It's your actual party infrastructure that would actually facilitate whether or not you can actually continue this momentum. I know this because, again, a candidate and a party got almost that exact same amount of money running a general election bid, and that didn't help them at all. The Reform Party, who after getting that federal matching funds, their party imploded. And in no certain terms do I believe that the Green Party has enough viable infrastructure to not crumble after getting that massive amounts of money. Next talking point that she said, which I didn't start looking into until recently, but yeah, I got one. I think I knew this a little bit before, but I just wanted to get this out here and clear now. One of the big things that Jill Stein tries to use to prove that the Green Party is good and the Green Party is great, and the reason why we shouldn't throw away third parties is because the Republican Party used to be a third party, guys, and now it's popular. Actually, that's not exactly true. In the late 1840s, early 1850s, the US's party system was in the midst of reforming itself in sort of a 2.5 party system, like the second party system and the third party system. Not in that way, but like yeah, we were reforming the party system of the United States. If you don't know how this works, basically every like couple of decades or so, the US changes its party system. Like, while we still broadly have two-party systems, like, there are elements that change in between. Like, of course, parties change. Like, at one point, the Republican Party was at one point the party of, like, left-wing progressive anti-slavery. Now it is the party of the neo-Confederates. Meanwhile, the Democrats used to be a party of, like, conservative, like, right-wing racist elements, and now it is the party of black people. Like, and every so often, we kind of, like, reboot, restructure, Third parties are also helpful in the party systems, because sometimes a third party will come in, introduce a system, and then what ends up happening is one of the major parties will swallow up that system. The Free Soilers would end up getting swallowed by the Republicans, and, the Democrats would end up swallowing the Populists. Republicans would end up swallowing the American Independent Party. It just, well, kind of. It's, again, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, the party itself, but, like, voters can be introduced. It's a very complex system, and it's a little bit hard. To the point where there's actually a historical debate going on right now about the US party system, where many people are arguing that we are actually in the midst of a seventh party system, even though most historians generally agree that we are still in the midst of a sixth one. But some argue the rise of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have made it so that the United States political system has changed drastically enough that we can officially start a new party system. I would argue at the very least, let's wait until 2024 ends before we can actually officially start thinking about a seventh party system, but regardless. We were basically in the midst of beginning the third party system, like the third party system. You know what I keep saying, I keep trying to clarify, but yeah, we're in the midst of that system. And, of course, one of the big issues that started it off was slavery. While it was broadly a geographical issue prior, as things got more heated, it started becoming less of a geographic issue and more of a party issue. Because, again, back in the day, parties were kind of originally seen as, like, again, geographical, where it's like, yeah, the South voted this way, the North voted this way. But now, we actually got to the point where it's like, now as we're actually growing and expanding technology and sort of actually expanding and kind of realizing the United States is less of a system of like individual states and more of like an actual country, it's like, okay, now we have to actually start having the parties kind of like actually grow and develop in other parts of the country that they're not necessarily comfortable with. Like the Whigs were, I think, kind of like the first party that kind of like really enjoyed like a really broad appeal in the United States regardless of where you were in the country, because they had like a lot of Southern Whigs and they had a lot of Northern Whigs and all this other stuff. But the problem is, Southern Whigs talked a lot differently than Northern Whigs. We see this to an extent with a lot of like Democrats nowadays. It's like Southern Democrats talk a little differently than like Democrats in like urban areas. But back in the day, it was like way different. Like you would have a Whig in like fucking like New York talk about how slavery was an evil system and how it was ruining the country. But meanwhile, you get a Whig in fucking Georgia, and they'd be talking about how the Bible says that it's actually okay for you to own slaves. Like, that was the kind of the contrast. But as this new system was starting to come around, it's like, we couldn't really do that anymore. Like, the parties had to officially make it known. Okay, what, like, it kind of like was brushed like again. Like, individual parties, individual states, you kind of just do whatever the fuck you want. But then it was like, no. Presidents, you gotta talk about this issue, and you have to make it known to people who are of your party all across the nation. Where do you stand on this issue? And do we stand with you or against you? While the Democrats were able to broadly agree on a white supremacist and pro-slavery message, Whigs weren't. They couldn't. Whigs wanted to focus on more of their pet issues rather than actually addressing the slavery issue. And that's because you couldn't really find a lot of agreement on slavery. Again, you go to a Whig in the South, they'd be pro-slavery. Go to a Whig in the North, they'd be anti-slavery. And as such, this led to a lot of third parties to kind of enter the scene and make their voices heard on the issue of slavery. The Liberty Party, the People's Party, the Free Soil Party, the Anti-Nebraska Party, they all kind of like just generally started popping up and be like, yeah, if you guys are going to address the issue of slavery, we will. There were even some people, like, in some, party members were starting to, like, get divided. Like, some Whigs who kind of felt like, we can't really support you because a lot of the prominent Whigs are now starting to talk about anti-slavery, so we're going to, like, leave. The Know Nothing Party also had a similar split in regards to that. And basically, what ended up happening is in 1854, all of those parties came together and said, hey, guys, divided we are weak. Look at the Congress. If we all go into Congress, we're going to be weak. But if we come together and unite together under one political party, then we will be able to actually mount a viable challenge to the Democrats and their pro-slavery platform. And when the next legislature came, they all united under one banner known as the Opposition Party, later to be renamed to the Republican Party, which by the time it was fully formed and ready to go into full effect, it became the second party because there were no other parties to challenge it. Like, it was the second party. Democrats had the most, then it was the Republicans, I think. Like, Fremont wasn't a third party candidate. Fremont was a second party candidate because the Republicans overwhelmingly eclipsed the Know-Nothings. So, I mean, unless you're literally going by foundation dates exclusively, then I guess it would be the third party if you literally went by only foundation dates. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, when we say a third party, we mean like a party in a two-party system that does not have that much power. And that was not the Republican Party, because again, it became the opposition. It became the opposition party. The next talking point she said in the thing that was stupid was her faux virtue signaling about the Uncommitted movement. During the interview, her and her VP nominee, Butch Ware, were crying and pissing themselves about the unfairness of the Uncommitted movement facing the DNC. Like, they were like, and this is the thing they all did this, where they're like crying and pissing themselves, like, it's unfair what the DNC did to the Uncommitted movement. Hey, why don't you guys join us? I mean, I'm just saying. Because if you remember, they didn't allow Roman or any other Palestinian Democrat to speak at the convention. And they're trying to see, like, you guys should come to us. Come to us, guys. You should join us, my friends. Let's go support me. Then immediately after that, she started attacking AOC, be like, AOC, you support genocide. You fucking genocide, pro-Israeli cocksucker. Like, she was saying all that stupid bullshit. And it's like, Ruwa herself got involved and said, that is like the furthest thing from the truth. You know absolutely nothing what you're talking about if you're thinking that AOC is pro-genocide. And then immediately afterwards, Ruwa was a target by these people. They started going like, oh yeah, she's just a shill for the Democrats and she just wants to keep her own interests in line. She wants to keep her own office in power. She actually wants to do that. She's a fake virtue signaler. Blah, blah, blah. Like they immediately they immediately did this. They immediately turned around and were just like, yeah, fuck you. And it kind of shows they don't give a fuck about us. Like, that's one of the fucking dumbest things that is really stupid. It's like, they want us to join them and be their allies. And it's like, the second we just give a mild criticism, a mild critique, a mild, hey, that's not right, they immediately turn on us. They're like, no, you're shill. You're fake gay shill. You're stupid idiot shills. Remember in 2016 where they're like really, really trying to hammer, like, yeah, we're the successors to the Bernie movement. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders, they're just like, you guys are not the successors of the Bernie movement. I'm not supporting you guys. I don't want to help you guys at all. And then now they're like, oh yeah, fuck Bernie Sanders. It's like, dude, if it weren't for Bernie, you guys wouldn't even have a platform to even talk about your stuff. But go ahead. And literally ever since the word, not only in the most recent movement to try and, like, quote-unquote build the Green Party with post-2016 Bernie Sanders run, but also with the fact that, again, Howie Hawkins got his start working for Bernie. So your party founder wouldn't even be involved in politics if it weren't for him. Now we're officially done with the Breakfast Club interview. You should probably watch the whole interview for yourself because, again, it's just fucking stupid. There are many points I probably missed, but yeah. Next point is that this is Jill Stein's 9th run for office. I don't want to bring this up because, like, oh, yeah, perennial candidates, you could bring that up. But, like, yeah, sometimes perennial candidates are good. But I want to bring this up. she keeps making fucking novice campaign errors, even though this is her 9th run. Like, during this election, much like how she tried to try to get the Bernie movement to support her in 2016, she ran to try and get the Muslim community to try and back her by trying to get Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hamid to be her running mate. Like, in 2016, she tried to get Nina Turner to be her running mate, to be like, oh yeah, she's amazing. Like, all of a sudden pretending, like, oh yeah, I give a shit about Nina Turner, and then all of a sudden, now that she doesn't care about Nina Turner, she's like, doesn't care. Like, once she can't use her as a political pawn anymore, she doesn't care. Much in the same way, the second that she couldn't use Abdullah as a pawn, I don't think she's mentioned him once. Like, bro, she didn't mention them before, she didn't mention them since. That's always how it is. And the reason why she couldn't use him is because he's too young to be president, which means that he's too young to be vice president. You didn't look before you asked? That was the thing. That was the fucking funny thing. It was like, oh yeah, she asked him, and he denied because he's too young. And it's like, you didn't look beforehand? You asked, and then you... What? A more infamous and funny example came from the Nevada Green Party that literally accidentally filed Jill Stein's name as a ballot initiative instead of a candidate. You are running your 3rd presidential campaign. How do you get this mistake on your 3rd try? Your first run, maybe, but by your 3rd time, you should have the ability to file the right paperwork. And then after she filed it wrong, she said, can we please get on ballot anyways? And then when they say, no, you can't get on the ballot, she cries and is like, they won't let me go on the ballot because of a teensy-weensy mistake. You filed the wrong fucking paperwork. You are absolutely stupid. How could a human being like you function? Like, if I made such a novice campaign mistake, I would have just dropped out and just been like, you know what? I don't deserve this office anymore. I don't deserve it. How in the fuck can you make a fucking, like, extremely novice campaign mistake and then expect me to be like, yeah, I think this woman should be in charge of the United States. And on that same vein, you wanna know who she turned to try and get help to get back on the ballot? Republicans. Because Jill Stein loves Republicans. She fucking hates Democrats, but she loves Republicans. She's never talked about Trump at all. Well, actually, she has, but shh, we're not going to talk about that quite yet. But yeah, whenever she has a problem with ballot access, she runs the Republicans. Republican lawyer Jay Sukalo represented Jill Stein after the Nevada Greens fucked up her papers. And she paid a Republican firm, I think it's his firm or someone else's firm, but she paid them like $9,000 or something for ballot access help. It's like, what? The same firm was also used by RFK Jr., who was literally brought into the race to specifically be a plant to siphon off Democratic support. So yeah, you can't really use that excuse that she didn't know. Like, there's no way that was an excuse. Oh yeah, and Republican lawyer Michael Dean represented Jill Stein in the Wisconsin ballot access suit, but also she doesn't just go to them to like get support. She just goes to them and just like plays footsie with them just normally. Like, she went on Blaze TV to praise their hosts, their main host that she praised, Alex Stein. I've talked about this before, who is well known for sexually harassing AOC, calling him real journalists. But when she goes on Mehdi Hassan for an interview, just because he criticizes her, oh, it's a smear job. It's a smear job. I'm being smeared. Even though he's just asking you questions about your platform policies and etc. And another recent one, well, actually, this isn't recent. This is like recent. It's been recently brought up again. But like earlier in the year, she went on a podcast titled Ladies Love Politics and openly talked about pardoning Donald Trump and January 6th insurrectionists. Disqualified. Sorry. No. Just flat no. Just flat, utter no. Just the fact that you even think that, oh yeah, the only reason why she said that is because she's went on like a funny, tiny channel and she's not going to get it like spread out on. But it did. And yeah, that's just fucking crazy. I think she even went so far as to say that she believes that some elements of the January 6th insurrection were trumped up by the media. It's like, fucking stupid bitch. Like, no. Like, it's insane that you even think that. But of course she only thinks that is just because, she's friends with Republicans. That's why she cares. And also because, she wants to shit on Dems. That's always how it is. It's just shit on the Dems. That's exclusively her personality. Shit on Democrats. That's exclusive. Her platform is literally Democrats bad, Democrats bad, Democrats bad. Which would be useful if she could explain why Democrats bad, but she can't because it's not part of her prerogative. It's not part of her programming. And on the topic of programming, I guess we gotta talk about this. Russia. Now, if you know me, I'm not necessarily the biggest, Jill Stein is a Russian asset guy, but there's some things that I just gotta acknowledge. We just gotta be real. We just gotta acknowledge this fact. I'm not gonna bring up a lot of the things because I've seen some elements that I've talked about. I've talked about them before. I'm talking about them again. I guess I'll just mention this one because this is one thing everybody's they're gonna want me to talk about it. So I guess I'll just say it. The famous, infamous Jill Stein photo of her at a table with Michael Flynn, Vladimir Putin, and a bunch of other people. I know the context of the photo, I know everything, I know the whole story, and I can regurgitate the whole story right here, right now. Jill Stein was invited to an RT gala for celebrating its 10th anniversary, or its 15th anniversary, or whatever the fuck. She was forced to sit at a table with Michael Flynn, and then Vladimir Putin showed up for 2 seconds, did a photo op or whatever, and then left. That's the famous photo. Everybody knows that photo. Everybody knows that famous photo. But, a lot of people, a lot of people try to point out, I pointed this out to, people in a Vosh community, just to explain this point, just to explain so everybody gets a broader picture. I'm not defending it, I'm not saying that it's great or whatever, but I'm just saying, because if you think about it, is that really, a defensible talking point? It's oh yeah, Jill Stein went to a propaganda news channel's in a gala. Wow, Jill, you really showed us there, buddy. And another way she should defend it is no, you see, RT invited me on their channel all the time. Yeah, but what does it say about you? What does it say about you that you keep getting invited to a Russian propaganda channel? What does it say about you? And I also know the very infamous Chad story about Howie Hawkins where he was where he went on a podcast that literally said yeah, I was there. I told Jill Stein, don't go there because I think you're being set up. And it's Chad base Howie Hawkins, he knew that Jill Stein was being set up for this. But one thing that really, 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 really makes me go okay, but let's think about this for a second. It's this. Actually reading and learning about Russiagate is actually a good thing. Reading nonpartisan, unbiased sources about Russiagate is actually a good thing that you should do. I recommend it for everybody, no matter what side of the Russiagate aisle you stand on. Whether you're super 100% pro Russiagate or whatever. Calling it pro or anti-Russiagate is just stupid, but no matter where you stand on the Russiagate issue, I think it's just best to read all of it again. Read the entire things. Or read summaries. Go to the Wikipedia article, read that. That'll give you some good information. And actually reading and learning about it actually made me realize a lot of the gray elements of Russiagate that definitely seem different. For example, a lot of people understand the idea in their brains. Libs have this one particular interpretation of Russiagate where it's Vladimir Putin clicked a button and then Trump magically became president and all the other issues magically don't count. No, that's not true. But there are elements it's very obvious that Russians were influencing aspects of the Trump campaign trying to boost his chances nationwide. It's very obvious that that's happened. The debates and divides come from the fact that they wanted to figure out the whole point of the Mueller report was literally trying to figure out, is there a link, an explicit link between Donald Trump and the Russian people, in the Russian oligarchy. They found a link that says that Russians were boosting Trump's chances, but they didn't find a link saying, Trump was goading them to do so, because that was the big thing. They wanted to figure out if Trump was actually goading them to being like this. And there were some elements that were interesting, and of course, they're the fact that Roger Stone and Donald Trump Jr. were in direct cooperation with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. That definitely seems really weird. Doesn't that seem weird? Is that not weird? And yet, despite that fact, Julian Assange was literally, at that same year, when he was literally goading Donald Trump Jr. to be hey, if your dad loses, he shouldn't concede. I'm sure nothing bad will come from that. That same year, Julian Assange was literally at the Green Party National Convention and gave a keynote address there. And according to an article on the subject, Jill Stein stated, quote, she's unsure how Assange convention address came about. Like, why? Why would she not know? And to people who try to go, like, well, I mean, come on, like, could Julian Assange have not just, like, cared about her politics? No. He doesn't care about her politics. I know this because Julian Assange started a political party in Australia, and in that politics, they were literally had, in Australia, you get to have a preference vote where you can, like, choose, where a party can choose one other party to get their votes if they lose. And Julian Assange made the choice, even though the Australian Green Party and the Green parties in general are usually super pro-Julian Assange, he made the decision to give that second vote to a fascist political party. He is clearly more right-leaning than Jill Stein, so why the fuck was he at her convention? And moreover, why did she not know why he was there? During the Breakfast Club interview, like, they brought up the fact that during the 2016 election, like, yeah, there were some allegations that Russians were boosting the chances of other political candidates. So, like, one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't like the fact that, this is because, like, it's claimed that Bernie Sanders was a target of this as well. And also Jill Stein. Like, the Congress literally went to the far as to investigate Jill Stein for her connections. Like, they never investigated Bernie. They investigated Jill Stein. And what they determined, like, she even went so far as trying to defend herself. She's like, no, you see, the report said that I had no affiliation with the Russians. It showed that I had no affiliation with the Russians. It's like, it doesn't necessarily help your case, because it's the same thing that they said about Trump. Like, here's what the official, like, statement about it is like, December 2018, two reports commissioned by the Senate Intelligence Committee found that the Russian-linked Internet Research Agency boosted and promoted Stein's candidacy through social media posts targeting African-American voters in particular. After consulting with two reporters, NBC News reporter Robert Wedham said that nothing suggested that Stein knew about the operation, but added that, quote, the Massachusetts position had long been criticized for her support of international policies that mirror Russian foreign policy goals. Again, things that have been similarly claimed about Trump, like, oh yeah, he might not have formally, like, been like, oh yes, had formal connections with Russia, but, like, the whole point, the insinuation is that due to the fact that your policies that you're espousing are what they want, like, best case scenario, useful idiot for Russia. That is what it seems to be. That's what the best case scenario is for Jill Stein in that endeavor. And I've made a podcast before that talked about this a little bit, but, like, a similar thing happened in 30s America, where the Nazi Party literally tried to infiltrate the American, like, world to try and infiltrate and get information, like, spread propaganda in the United States. And that's, like, I mean, best case scenario, useful idiot. Worst case scenario, willing participant. I guess I could make this comparison. I brought it up for a reason. Ernest Lundin. At best, he had no idea what was going on. At worst, he did know what was going on. And it seems the same for Jill Stein. At best, she doesn't know what's going on, but it's still useful idiots. Like, I mean, it's no denying that Jill Stein's platform is technically what Russia wants. Whether or not it's the good intentions about it is a different story. That could be a similar thing. It's like, yeah, in America, there were some people in America that opposed entering World War II for completely altruistic good reasons. And then there were other people who were doing it purely for malicious intent. Best case scenario, Jill Stein is just naive on the issue or whatever. Worst case scenario, she is, like, completely being parroted around by the Russians. And from what Jill Stein said, from what the Senate Intelligence Committee says, from what everybody seems to be pointing to, she's just been a useful idiot. But one thing that does not help her case is the fact that Jill Stein has defended the African People's Socialist Party and the Uruhu movement, political groups who were indicted by the U.S. intelligence agencies for collaborating with Russian businessman Alexander Viktorovich Ionov to sow discord in the United States regarding Russia and Ukraine. Ionov has a history of randomly supporting secessionist movements in the United States and other parts of the world, such as neo-Confederate movements like the League of the South and the California independence referendums. Like, this is like a group that has actual legitimate, verifiable connections to, like, Russians, like, without a shadow of a doubt. And Jill Stein openly defended them. Like I've said in my podcast where I talked about Russiagate, where it's like, yeah, on one end, yeah, being accused of being a Russian asset when you are not is wrong. But when you are going reverse and defending literal Russian assets, you kind of lost the plot. But let's ignore all of that. But let's just answer this question. Like, one of the big reasons is just ultimately this. Ultimately, what will Jill Stein do? Big question of the hour. No one can provide me an answer. What will Jill Stein's 2024 bid do? You hear that? Nothing. Exactly what it would do. Nothing. There is no scenario where Jill Stein wins the election in November. There is absolutely no actual scenario where she wins in November. There is no scenario where this magically transports the Green Party into a magically viable political party. That scenario is not happening. It is literally just a couple of, literally the election is not that far away. Literally, it's I think I literally have a week before I can officially start voting. Yeah, early voting literally starts in a week. In a couple of days when this podcast comes out. It's not that far from actual voting time. Jill Stein is not going to grow magically from 1% to fucking 30% or whatever. That's not happening. There is no scenario where I go in the ballot box, click Jill Stein, and then walk out, and the Palestinian genocide ends. There is no scenario where that happens. Jill Stein's not winning. She's not going to push the Democrats. That's another thing. It was people literally trying to be oh, well, you see, we can't have, we're going to make the Democrats be good on this issue. It's no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That scenario does not happen. The Green, they're not looking at you and thinking, oh yeah, we need to be more like her. That's not going to happen. There is no scenario where Jill Stein will end the Palestinian genocide. What she will do is be a vanity bid. She's going to be a vanity bid. That's all she is. She's a vanity bid, a feel-good bid, to make lefties who really are I hate Kamala so much. They want to get those people to be yes, back me, please. And worst case scenario, she could play spoiler. I'm not even saying that she is a spoiler. I don't think Jill Stein is a spoiler because I do not think Jill Stein is going to get enough votes to be a spoiler. I don't think she is an electoral threat. But clearly, a lot of people want her to be an electoral threat. Jill Stein, Republicans are not giving you the ability to go on these swing states ballots. They're not trying to fight for you to get on the swing states ballots out of the kindness of their heart, you fucking idiots. That's not happening. They're doing it because they think they want to use you as a spoiler. You're a useful idiot if you don't see this. That's what you are. Again, I don't genuinely think that Jill Stein's going to be a spoiler because I don't think that she has enough support for that. But you know who does think she has enough support for that? Not only do Republicans, but Jill Stein's own supporters, like Kashama Sawant.
The election has already started. Absentee ballots have been sent. We need to catch up rapidly. We need everyone here to get active. We need to be clear about what our goals are. We are not in a position to win the White House. But we do have a real opportunity to win something historic. We could deny Kamala Harris the state of Michigan. And the polls show that most likely Harris cannot win the election without Michigan.
First of all, that's not true. She does have routes to win without Michigan. I mean, I guess technically that's not what she said. She said that there's the most, because it really depends because there's some people have weird analysis of the elections. But think about that. Kshama Sawant literally just said, point blank, we have no chance of winning, but we could prevent Kamala from winning. Oh, okay. And what did you do? You prevented Kamala from winning? What gain? What gain did you get? It's the same thing with force the vote. It's oh yeah, we could get them on the record to, yeah, they have a record already. It's called the co-sponsor list and voting list. What are you gaining? You're gaining nothing. All you're doing is just, what is the gain in this scenario? There is no gain. Look, I don't care if this action will somehow have a, as an expressed good purpose. I mean, it's... Look, the net good of this is just objectively bad. There is no net good. Best case scenario, we have robbed Kamala Harris of the bid. Now Donald Trump is president. Take that, Kamala. Palestine is no more. Great job, guys. You did such an amazing job. This weird insinuation that, like, Kamala is worse on this issue than Trump. I don't get this weird world that people live in, where they have to, like, pretend that they have to pretend they're equal on this issue. They're not equal. They're objectively different. Literally, Trump has stated that on day one, he will let Israel finish the job by meaning wipe out Palestine, and wants to give them aid to invade Iran, possibly with our troops. How is this not obviously different from what Kamala wants? Like, the only people who benefit in this scenario is the Green Party and Jill Stein. They're the only people who benefit from this vote total. Palestinians don't benefit because bombs are going to get more prominent under a Trump administration than a Kamala administration. The Democrats aren't going to be pushed left on this issue because they're not going to look at Kamala Harris losing on this issue and then go, you see, the problem is that she was actually too hawkish on the Palestine conflict, because Kamala Harris has taken a less hawkish issue on the Palestine conflict than Joe Biden did. The insinuation that you could actually think, we're going to push the Democrats left by running against them, and then due to this fact, we're actually going to make them, like, go, like, further. The same thing happened with fucking, like, Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush, where some people are literally trying to be like, you see the problem, you see, the actual thing is, you see, they actually were more, like, we should have had them be, like, they should have been more pro-Palestinian, and that's why they lost. It's like, no fucking human being in the existence of the world even thinks that is the case. Similar people in Jill Stein's crowd, like fucking, like, Social MMA, he has, like, brain dead analysis like this all the time, where it's like, it happened with the Finnish election, where in Finland, Sanna Marin, the Social Democratic Prime Minister, lost. And then he's like, you see, the reason why she lost is because she's actually pro-NATO. And it's like, the person who lost, like, who won the election, is more hawkish on NATO. Spoiler alert, same thing's going to happen on Palestine. Again, the only people who gain from this are technically the GOP and the Green Party. And I don't care about the Green Party benefiting, because the Green Party fucking sucks and doesn't deserve to get winnings. They don't deserve to win. I hate them. They're a terrible party. I've made a couple of previous podcasts explaining this, but let's do it again. As a person who has been paying attention to the Green Party since the gap between 2016 and now, I've seen nothing to fill me with confidence that they are a viable political movement. I even had someone today try to debate, be like, the Green Party is actually a good viable party. And I asked them multiple times, how viable are they? Give me examples of how they're viable. Crickets, nothing. Do you know what the term viable means? It means, like, it can work, it can win, it can do things. And I've seen nothing. This is the problem with most people who give shit about the Green Party. Here's what happens. They show up. And then in the 4 years, until the next presidential election, they don't care about the Green Party. And then magically, when it's time for the election, they care. I know this because that happened. Revolutionary Black Network. I didn't know about them until, like, I knew that they were talking about the Green Party in 2016. I knew they talked about them in 2020. And I knew they talked about them in 2024. I didn't see anything in between those years. Meanwhile, I've covered and endorsed and gave support to tons of Green Party candidates. And I also shown that the Green Party had a lot of faults and a lot of flaws and a lot of things that they should have improved on. And one big thing, Green Party was really susceptible to ops. Our Republican ran as the Green Party nominee in Iowa District 3 in 2018. The Montana Green Party had their entire slate hijacked in 2020. Tamara Zwinak in North Carolina District 11 was a obvious plant for them, and they almost got me banned from Twitter because I simply asked the question, hey, if you're Green Party candidates, why are you not backing your own party's nominee, Howie Hawkins? And the Arizona Green Party this year had a dispute with a GOP plant and a Republican and a Democratic plant running in their primary. But the thing that really showed me just how fucking trash and atrocious this party was for their primaries was their 2020 presidential primary. Like, I mean, I looked into research about the previous presidential primaries and they have, like, you know, ups and downs. But the 2020 primary was just absolutely fucking atrocious. And let's go. I've talked about this time and time again. Let's go over it once more. All right? Let's go all in on it. Because I have a timeline. I have a timeline already. All right. In 2018, the Green Party tried to invite Jesse Ventura to their convention in an attempt to court him for a bid. He declined. December 3rd of 2018, right after getting less than half of a point in the Maryland governor race, Ian Schlockman files to run for the Green Party nomination 8 days before he turns 35. January of 2019, a Democrat school board member named Dario Hunter decides to leave the Democratic Party and announce a bid for the Green Party presidential nomination. Why? I have no clue, but for some reason he's just like, I will run as a Green. March of 2019, Green Party members began circulating a petition to get one of their founders, Howie Hawkins, to run, who they've been trying to get to run for the party nomination since 2012, but due to his job as a UPS driver, he couldn't do that. He could run for state and local races, but he didn't have enough time to run a nationwide race. But in early 2019, he retired from his UPS job. And that made people go, maybe we should have him run for the presidential nomination. May of 2019, Howie Hawkins officially announces that he'll be seeking the Green Party nomination for president. The Green Party's official account says, "Congratulations, Howie, you're our founder. We love you, and we want you to be our nominee." That leads to a little bit of a problem, because Ian Schlockman, Dario Hunter, Senator Keenamo Christian Moyo Curry, and a couple of other smaller names cry foul of this, because they've been running for the nomination for decently large amounts of time, and they didn't get the red carpet. They were like, what the fuck, dude? Why do you get to be announced on these big things? With the reason being very obvious in hindsight, because, you know, he's the party founder, but also because, you know, like, I mean, due to the fact that he's a party founder, he kind of, like, because the Green Party has a process to do the nominations. You have to get a certain number of signatures or raise a certain amount of money to be considered a qualified Green Party candidate. And Howie Hawkins, due to the fact that he's a Green Party founder, and he already got petitions circulating before he even entered the race, he kind of easily managed to get, like, recognized as an official Green Party nominee easily. Other candidates had a harder time getting this position because they weren't getting the same treatment as Howie Hawkins. June of 2019, Ian Schlockman publishes a letter where he calls out the fact that Howie's campaign manager, Kevin Zeese, asked Ian to drop out of the race because he's like, look, you're young, you got probably a future in the Green Party, but right now, you got nothing. I think it'd be in your best interest if you drop out and endorse Howie. And, you know, he just basically said, hey, I think it's best if you do that. But Ian Schlockman was like, what the fuck, man? You can't do that. That's bad. I'm gonna leak it. Also calling out the fact that a Green Party chair named Andrea Merida Cuellar was actually speaking on behalf of the Howie campaign while in her duties as Green Party chair, with many other candidates also still crying foul of this. September 9th of 2019, Howie Hawkins posts a press release that says that Mike Gravel endorsed him. Mike Gravel would then go on a podcast to state that he has no idea who Howie Hawkins is, then on a later podcast said, no, I actually do know who Howie Hawkins is, but I'm not endorsing him. I might, but I'm not doing it right now. September of 2019, a guy by the name of Chad Wilson, who has absolutely no experience with the Green Party, randomly enters the presidential race and just says a lot of interesting things. You know, I got into a little bit of tussles with Chad Wilson here and there, and he said a lot of very interesting things. You know, he said things like Dario Hunter was a dual citizen of Israel because he's Jewish, which isn't true. He claimed that Howie Hawkins cannot seek the Green Party nomination because he was running for the Socialist Party nomination, despite the fact that literally every Green Party has sought the nomination of multiple parties in the past. He claimed that Howie Hawkins was a war hawk because he was critical of Bashar al-Assad. He claimed that Howie Hawkins was a Democratic Party plant who was actually secretly working with the Democratic Party the entire time that he's been working as the head of the Green Party, and made the claims that due to Howie Hawkins' alleged chicanery, the Green Party primaries were null and void, and the Green Party should nominate Jesse the Body Ventura, who was actually running a secret bid for the office because he kept going on the interviews of this insane podcaster who did this podcast. I think is insane because he would literally say different things every single time they got on. He was the same guy who got Mike Gravel to go on and be like, I don't know who Harry Hawkins is. Oh, actually, I do know who Harry Hawkins is. He kept inviting Jesse Ventura on the show to be like, are you ready for president, man? Are you ready for president? Are you ready for president? And Jesse Ventura would be like, I'm not running for president. I am not running for president. But if I were to run for president, I mean, hypothetically, doing the same thing that he does all the time. Because, again, Jesse Ventura does what he does best. He does what he does best. He grabs people's dicks and like edges them about a potential like, oh yeah, you want me to run for president, don't you? You want me to run for president, don't you? Like he does that literally every 4 years. He like comes into office and be like, oh, I'm this interesting candidate and I would be an amazing president. And then he disappears for 4 years and then comes back like, oh, I'm like comes back, rallies up enough support to get to people to like be like, oh, you might be want to run for president. Oh, well, I'm not gonna run for president. Like literally, he does it. In the 90s, he was, and in doing so, he rebranded himself. In the 90s, when he first entered politics, he was this random fringe centrist, you know. And then when he was entering politics and like they thought, hey, you might run for president in 2000, he said, well, I'm not going to run for president. I'm going to support Trump because we're both radical centrists who believe that the far right and the far left are too far. Sure, that will last, buddy. Then in the 2000s, he rebranded himself as an anti-war conspiracy nut. Because guess what was in at the time? Anti-Iraq war activism. Now, in fairness, nothing really seems out of the ordinary, you know. Okay, he was like broadly centrist. He never really like talked about foreign policy as mayor. But, you know, broadly it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, he's like a veteran. He's got like a history of like vet issues. So, yeah, it makes sense being anti-war. Then in the 2010s, magically, he rebrands himself and he's like this huge hardcore libertarian. I love Ron Paul. Ron Paul is amazing. Which, again, doesn't really it makes sense, you know, what could be considered libertarianism could be considered centrist, you know, fiscally conservative and socially liberal, and, you know, anti-war, that makes sense, libertarianism. But then randomly in 2016, like, he randomly goes from, like, I am a good supporter of Ron Paul, and since he's not the Republican nominee, I'm going to be endorsing Governor of Minnesota, Gary Johnson. And then in 2016, Gary Johnson runs again. He's like, I love Gary Johnson again. And then magically the day after the election, he says, oh, actually, even though I said throughout the entirety of the election, I supported Gary Johnson, I actually voted for Dr. Jill Stein. Because at that time, Bernie Sanders was all in. And yeah, he was going to jump on their bandwagon. Similarly, he does it all the time. He does this all the fucking time. And the fact that there were people who legitimately liked this, Chad Wilson literally built his entire brand on this, it's just ludicrous. And that ended up ending because he said, yeah, I'm not running for president. I'm not running for president, you know, because he had his 15 minutes of fame, and every time he does this thing, he always goes like, oh yeah, by the way, now that I'm entering the mainstream again, I got my own TV show now. I got my own radio show on RT now. I got this show now. I got this podcast now. Conveniently, always, every time he does this, he's got a new book or he's got a new TV show thing to shill. Conveniently. And he somehow convinced a lot of people online who literally are like super hardcore communists around and be like, oh yeah, I love Jesse Ventura. It's like, why? Like, I saw a Hassan clip and Hassan's like, oh, I love Jesse Ventura. It's like, why? He is nowhere close to a communist. Why? Why do you, of all people, like him? Like, if you're a generic dude bro populist who has, like, some slightly left of center politics, that makes sense. But, like, why are you people who are like, oh, yeah, I'm super far left? Why do you give a fuck about him? And all this drama ultimately culminated with two state Green parties to disaffiliate from the National Party because they couldn't really reconcile the differences. There was also another one that disaffiliated them because they were full of transphobes. Oh yeah, and I didn't have any room to mention this, so I'll just say this right now. One of the other candidates is literally like an anti-Semite who literally like COVID conspiracy theorist, you know, that kind of stuff. He hates Jews, he hates COVID, and the guy's name is David Rold. Oh yeah, and I guess I should mention the 2024 presidential primary process for the Green Party because that is interesting. And by that I mean it wasn't interesting because Cornel West came in and then left, and then Jill Stein randomly jumped in. That shows, again, they're not a viable party. They have to tell Jill Stein, like, when they're like, yeah, Cornel West, let's go, guys, and then randomly he leaves, like, do you not have anyone else who can run? That'd be one thing if the presidential elections weren't the main focus of your party. But when it is, it's kind of a problem. Like, Eugene Debs ran multiple times as the Socialist Party nominee, but that was because the Socialist Party had other endeavors that it was focusing on, and they were more, and the presidential ones were more of an afterthought. But that's not the case for this Green Party. The presidential primary, like presidential elections, are their bread and butter. They have nothing else going for them. But the truth of the matter is that ultimately, Jill Stein and her voters do not actually care about any of the things they claim to. They don't care about destroying the duopoly. They don't care about meaningfully doing anything to help Palestinians. Hell, they don't even care about the environment. Remember that? The Green Party? Their number one issue is supposed to be the environment? And yet throughout this entire drama, I really didn't mention anything about the environment? Because they don't care about the issue. Also ignoring the fact that Jill Stein actually has many dollars in the military-industrial complex, which she blames for climate change, rightfully, but she also has a lot of money in them, so shh. All the Green Party and their voters and their supporters want to do is virtue signal about these problems to earn favor. Because what are you actually going to do? What are they actually going to do to address these problems? Nothing. You want to destroy the duopoly? Like, do something, literally. Do anything aside from running for a presidential election every 4 years. Literally, like, again, I know Green Party runs people, but like, really? You haven't been doing a good job of that this far. Quite literally, why the fuck not? Just run candidates. Like, I said this before, like, why don't you just put a lot of effort into running like one seat, build the momentum in between the election, do something. You need to actually build an electoral base for them to show up, but you don't have one. Your electoral base is all the people who signed up for the Green Party, and then like any stragglers that come along. That's your electoral base, and the electoral base is not big. 2020, that's your peak. That is what your average voting base is. I mean, I literally said, like, at the time, like, hey, Jill, why didn't you just run for, like, anything? Again, build a base. Keep your name in the news tablets. Keep it around so that when you do have to run a presidential campaign, you'll have name recognition and you can actually do something. And I know this for a fact because that's kind of what happened with the Libertarian Party nominee. Gary Johnson, when he ran for president, he ran in a Senate race afterwards. You had the opportunity to do that too, Jill. Massachusetts, your home state, had a Senate race that was up for grabs that year. You could have ran against Elizabeth Warren, and a lot of people would have supported you. They would have said, like, yeah, fuck Elizabeth Warren for betraying Bernie. We're going to support you instead. Were you going to win? Hell no, but you could have actually kept your name in the news, kept your name in the records. You could have been maintaining your power. Or hell, like, Greens, literally just pool all your money together and run for, like, one House seat in California and just put all your money and effort into that. There are a ton of seats in Congress right now that are literally going to be unopposed. Greens could have ran anybody in those areas. North Carolina has like 2 or 3 seats that are going to be like Republican versus minor party candidate, and none of them are Greens. There's like one Green Party nominee here, but he's in the deep blue area. Which is like, okay, that's one thing. Yeah, you can do that as well. But also, it's like, why not run in like areas where like you are the sole opposition? That's a way to build your party. I know this because this has happened with other third parties before, where they would run as like the sole opposition, and it would build name recognition. And I know that this strategy can work because like putting all your effort in like building an electoral base in one district. Yeah, some might say like, well, that's not good. That's just gonna help you in one district. Yeah, but guess what? It can work and help a district. I know this because California District 34 did that exact same thing. And it was done by a Green. Kenneth Mejia. He began running in this seat multiple times. 2017, he ran as a Green Party candidate, got 4.6%. Then in 2018, he got 27.5% as a Green. Did really well. Built an electoral base to make people be like, yeah, fuck Jimmy Gomez. And guess what? Then, one person in his electoral base, David Kim, decided to run for the seat in 2020, this time as a Democrat, but with the support of Kenneth Mejia. And guess what? 47.0%. 2022, 48.8%. Also, I should mention, Kenneth Mejia, with his name recognition, managed to win LA Comptroller as a Democrat. In Vermont, Bernie Sanders spent 10 years building a viable third party. Literally, it took him 10 years in the smallest state in the union to build a viable political infrastructure outside of the two-party duopoly. You have to put in work to do this. DSA spent a lot of time building a base, which got accelerated thanks to Bernie. They spent a lot of time on that. The Socialist Party of America and the Communist Party of America literally spent time and effort building inroads with African Americans and union workers. They did that. They worked really hard to build inroads and infrastructure to build massive parties all across the states. And they worked. The Socialist Party was a big, viable party in many states. In Wisconsin, they were a force to be reckoned with. The Communist Party, it spent so much time building a lot of inroads, building infrastructure, that the U.S. establishment literally had to spend an entire decade killing whatever power they had. Literally, even like the most basic thing, like just organize protests, like literally just be like, okay, fuck this election, fuck 2024, just build, like they could spend, like this would have been a way smarter strategy if the Green Party decided to not run a candidate in 2024 and instead just focus their attention purely on going to every pro-Palestinian protest ever, going to all of them, be like passing out flyers, and be like, hey, we support this issue. We can't run a candidate right now. We can maybe run some statewide candidates, but like, we can't run a nationwide candidate right now. But if you guys help us, we can build an infrastructure to help hopefully keep this issue alive. Hold Kamala's feet to the fire if she's elected, and or Trump, hold them to the fire, and maybe we do all this power, and we can do all this. Then when 2028 comes, oh boy, they'll have a force to be reckoned with, my friends. That was Bernie's plan with Hillary. He didn't want to run immediately after that election. He didn't want to run in 2020. He wanted to run in 2016, hopefully win. But when he didn't win, he was like, okay, I'm going to wait a little while, maybe like build some party infrastructure, and we can like work within Hillary Clinton's platform to see if we can get things done. But then the situation changed, and he went in a different direction. An example of this would be Morena. Technically, it was founded in 2011. AMLO could have used Morena and like immediately jumped into being like, oh yeah, I'm going to run for president in 2012 under the Morena Party. But if he did, he would have failed immediately. Instead, no. He waited, he built party infrastructure, he built inroads with other people within his movement, activist movements within the party infrastructure that he currently had, did all that. And then when he was like, I'm ready to start this new political party, 21% of Mexicans said that they supported its creation. Now the party is literally bordering on being Mexico's state party because it is so powerful and so it took time to actually do the work to build a viable political party. And the Greens don't want to do that. Why not? Why the fuck do you not want to build an infrastructure and build a party? They want to skip to that part. They want to skip. That's why they want to do this election cycle like this. This is always their election plan. Run presidential campaign, win, then it'll trickle down to the rest of the Greens. No, you have to build up to that power. Like, you need to actually do things to actually build infrastructure and actually, like, that's the thing. That's why DSA is more successful than the Greens. Because they can actually just skip to the part where they want. Since they don't have to build a party infrastructure and do the boring part of building a political party from scratch, they can actually just go immediately to activism. They can go immediately to, like, helping run campaigns because they don't have to worry about building and maintaining a party infrastructure in and of itself. The Greens have to do that, but they don't want to do that. So instead, they just want to move on to the next part. Like, it's why I'm technically old enough to run for office at some point. I'm not going to ever because it's like that's hard work. I don't have the patience and power to do that. And you Greens claim to do, which is why you need to actually do things to actually maintain that. Now let's use this time to address either criticisms or whatever. But you backed Jill Stein in the past, so why not now? Well, I mean, I just kind of said a why now, but yes, that is true. I mean, if you guys don't know, yeah, when I was 16 years old, I quote-unquote backed her. I never actually did anything to vote for her. I voted for the Green Party once in the presidential elections. I voted for Howie. I don't necessarily regret that. This isn't an I Hate Howie Hawkins episode, my guys, no time soon. I'm not making that episode no time soon. This is purely about Jill Stein. Okay, I guess technically this is also about the Green Party, but yeah, this is me criticizing Jill Stein and claiming Jill Stein is bad, not necessarily the Green Party in and of itself. There are some individual members of the Green Party that might be cool. There might be some individual candidates in the Green Party that might actually support at some point. I mean, I think there's a guy, that one Green in North Carolina, I think I might be backing him, just because, again, deep blue seat, not like it's going to be making any difference, and I could, but yeah, I guess I'll just acknowledge this. It's similar with me supporting Tulsi. I have some reservations, but ultimately I don't regret it. I don't regret saying #no to Shillery and I back Jill, not Hill. I don't regret that necessarily. But I'll acknowledge this. Guys, I mean, all these criticisms that you guys have been saying, like, oh yeah, well, I mean, you were saying that Jill Stein was virtue signaling. Does that mean you virtue signaled when you supported Jill Stein? Yes! That's exactly what it means. I fully acknowledge this, that I virtue signaled on Jill Stein when I was younger. She had no chance. It's pretty obvious she had no chance. I wanted to let people know that I was better than all the Bernie crats who were going to support Hillary Clinton. I wanted to show, no, I'm better, I'm cooler. I'm going to support Jill Stein because that's no, I'm not supposed to do that. To virtue signal about continuing the political revolution and bringing change beyond the corporate-backed duopoly. I still maintain aspects of what I did, and I maintain that I had better intentions than most. Because again, I covered the Green Party. I acknowledged the Green Party in between the election years. I gave the praise and I gave the criticisms. But it's a similar thing. I gave the Green Party a chance. You can't really blame me for being young and being like, I give the Green Party a chance. I said this. I gave Green Party, Moving for People's Party, DSA/Justice Dems a chance. I gave them, they had 4 years. Prove what you can do in those 4 years, and then I'll support you 100%. And of those 3 routes, one proved to be more successful than the other ones. And the reason why I'm not supporting her this time is because I don't need her. It's the same with Marianne. I don't need to virtue signal about how leftier than thou I am. I don't have to, prove myself to anybody. I don't need some random woman's vanity bid to prove that I'm truly leftier than other people. I am significantly to the left. I would probably say I'm significantly to the left of Jill Stein on a lot of issues. I don't need to vote for her to prove, oh yeah, you see, I'm actually a real leftist. Bruh, I don't need that. I think technically, if we were to go by the political compass's standards, I am technically to the left of Jill Stein. I don't need to prove that I'm a socialist by bubbling in next to a person's name on a ballot. If you seriously think that, you're just stupid. Very ironic that a lot of people who literally seem to a lot of people like to do the both things where they like to claim that, oh, no, that's not true. But also, they do. I mean, literally, do you not know how many people are running for president right now whose campaign slogan is literally Socialism 2024? Literally, Joe Kishore, Claudia de la Cruz, they're all running on oh yeah, we're running as the real socialists in the race. It's you're running as you are the only candidate of socialism? Fucking stupid idiots. Really? I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I hate the Democratic Party. I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I hate the Republican Party. I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I'm against the duopoly. I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I'm for ranked choice voting. I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I'm for a Green New Deal. I don't need Jill Stein to prove that I am a socialist. I don't need Jill Stein to prove any of that shit. I don't need her for that. I don't need her for anything. Does this mean you don't support third parties and are now a Democrat now? Did you not just fucking hear what I just said? I don't need Jill Stein to prove that. I still support the idea of the left remaining somewhat independent and eventually breaking off from our tumoristic relationship with the Democrats. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen in one fucking election cycle. Nor can we accomplish much if we try to do that plan immediately. So, of course, the best course of action is to currently maintain the inside-outside strategy of the Justice Democrats Working Families Party and DSA for now, build the infrastructure for a possible new party. Like, I know it's still somewhat fantastical, but the ideal situation to create a major socialist party in the United States would be electing AOC or Rashida or someone else in the squad as president of the United States, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to create a brand new political party as we're the president of the United States now, and then magically all the DSAs are going to magically join this political party. But at this point, it's like, what's the point of like doing that and then also just not just doing socialism as a Democrat? It's like, bro, I don't care about the party label. I don't care. I care about like the actual policy infrastructures that will be put in place. I've stated this quote before, and I'll state it again. It's a famous Eugene Debs quote. It is better to vote for what you want and not get that than to vote for what you don't want and get it. And I still maintain that 100%. That hasn't changed. In 2020, I voted to get Bernie Sanders in office. I knew that I wanted him to win, and I tried my best to get him to win. He didn't, but I tried. And I want to stop fascism from taking charge in the United States, and I will work to make sure it will happen. Will it work? Hopefully so. But Jill Stein's not going to prevent that. She's running as a useful idiot for the GOP. That's what she's doing. And that's all she has been doing for this whole cycle. But we can't reward Kamala for what she's done in Palestine. So we should reward Trump? Like, that's what's going to happen if you prevent Kamala from winning. That's literally it. That's literally it. That's all that's going to happen. Literally. There are two people that are going to be president. One of these two people are going to be president in 2025. Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. Donald Trump is running on finish the job Netanyahu. He's running on, yes, I will give you guys money to go fight Iran. He's running on that. Kamala Harris is running on a ceasefire. Ultimately, what type of ceasefire will it be? Will it be an actual good ceasefire? Will it be a half-assed ceasefire? With a good, decent Democratic base, she will probably give us at least a decent ceasefire. But best case scenario, like, I think literally the most realistic scenario is we just bought the Palestinians a little bit more time. Donald Trump, he wants to get into office, deport all of the people who are Palestinian in the United States, and then tell Benjamin Netanyahu and Ben Gvir, finish the job, and then boom, more Israel. That is what he wants. And yet you guys are going to sit here and be like, oh, well, like, and yeah, it's a similar thing. It's like liberals have tried to be like they made the same joke that they always do. It's like, all these Muslims who are going to vote for Jill Stein, I want their names to be the first on the deportation list. And then a lot of Jill Stein supporters are like, see how racist and Islamophobic they are? It's like, the reason why they can make those jokes is because that's what's going to happen. That is what's going to happen. Trump is running on this plan. I don't understand this. He is explicitly running on, I will deport Palestinians and then tell Benjamin Netanyahu to bomb them to death. He is explicitly running on that plan, which is significantly worse than Kamala's plan. Is Kamala bad on Palestine? Yes, 100%. She's aiding and abetting the Palestinian genocide. But guess what? She's aiding and abetting it less than Trump would. If Trump were president right now, there would be no Palestine. The reason why Donald Trump says that what would be going on in Palestine wouldn't be happening right now isn't because he's saying, like, oh, well, we would have fixed the issue and it would have magically been happy hunky-dory. No, he's saying the reason why it wouldn't have happened is because there would have been no Palestinians to fight back. This is the equivalent of going to a black person and being like, oh yeah, black people, who are you going to vote for president? Abraham Lincoln or Stonewall Jackson? It's a very easy, cut and dry case. Well, okay, you've made up your mind. You're clearly not going to vote for Jill Stein of the Green Party this time around. Are you at the very least okay with me supporting the Green Party? No. Kamala Harris is the only option. Straight up. Kamala Harris is the only option in this race. If you are in a swing state especially, the only option is Kamala Harris. That is a fact of the situation. Jill Stein does not deserve your support or respect. She is literally just, she's a useful aid for the Republicans. She's not just there to, siphon off votes for this potential cycle. They want to get you, yes, you, the left-wing viewer, they want you to join up with this club that's not going to do anything and actually take away your infrastructure so that you don't actually get to actually participate in real politics. Like, a lot of people like to make the claim, oh, you see, AOC and Bernie, they're sheepdoggers in the Democrats. Well, guess what? Jill Stein is the lemming that wants to take you off the fucking cliff. That's what she wants to do. Because what are you going to do? What are you actually going to do to actually get any of the policies that you actually want to get done? What is going to happen when that happens? Nothing. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get anything done that you actually want. All the Green Party is a group of people that are going to go into a room, circle jerk each other, come in each other's mouths, and be like, yes, please. That is what you are doing. That is all you are doing, and that's all you will ever be doing in the Green Party. Jill Stein's the siren who wants to get you to jump off the boat. She's tempting you with her song, Don't Go Her Way. There's a quote from Bernie Sanders back in 1984 that maintains fully true to this day. And it's about Walter Mondale, where he first endorsed Walter Mondale, where he said, and I quote, when I'd go around talking about Walter Mondale, I would say that if elected president, I would felt Walter Mondale was going to be a pretty bad president. Now, sometimes you may have to make painful decisions. If you go around saying that Mondale would be a great president, you would be a liar and a hypocrite. That is not what I was saying. And that's the same thing with Kamala. I am literally, quote for quote, when I'd go around telling people about Kamala Harris, I would say that if elected president, I felt Kamala Harris was going to be a pretty bad president. Now, sometimes you have to make painful decisions. If you go around saying that Harris would be a great president, you'd be a liar and a hypocrite. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Kamala Harris is preventing Trump. That's all it is. It's all it is. All it is preventing Trump from getting another term. That's all I care about. That's all I want. That's all that is going to be done in this cycle. We had chances. We failed. We fucked up. The best course of action is to prevent Trump from getting another term, and maybe, if we're lucky, David Kim gets to be in Congress too. That's our best course of action for leftists and progressives. That's all we have left. If Trump gets another term, everything that you have fought and cared for years will immediately go backwards, will be ruined, and anything that you actually will want to do will never be accomplished. Bernie felt the same about Mondale, and guess what? He probably feels regret for even remotely giving Reagan a chance from winning in 1980 when he backed Clifton DeBerry. Even though I don't think he had a chance to, it doesn't really matter either way for Bernie. It's long ago, but yeah, he's backed the Dems ever since, and he maintains that to this day. If you are a leftist that actually wants to get things done, join Democratic Socialists for America. Literally, the leftist organization that has been putting the effort to be electing officials, organizing rallies, and has done immense things for every single issue that they care for. They're the one organization that so far has been proven wrong. Again, that's if you're a leftist who's watching this, best course of action, join DSA, register independent if you can, so that you can maintain your virtue signal of independence or whatever. Support progressive Democrats in the primaries. Then if they're in a case that you're okay, maybe we can support someone who's different and outside of the duopoly. Yeah, whatever. But always maintain that you have the ability. The thing about the Green Party is that if you're doing this, you're immediately saying there is no chance that you would back the Dems. If you're an official member of the Green Party, then it's yeah, you've kind of written off the fact that you're not a Dem, and you're not worth getting as a voting bloc. But regardless, yeah, fuck Jill Stein. Jill Stein is not a report. Genuinely, I'll just be real. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Jill Stein. Fuck Cornel West. Fuck Randall Terry. Fuck Chase Oliver. Fuck Kamala Harris slightly less than the rest. And you know what? Maybe I'll rescind that a little bit for Cornel West. So, Cornel West, you only get a frick. Frick, Cornel West. Anyways, that's all I gotta say on the topic, except, again, fuck Jill Stein. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify the future video when it comes out. And if here's more content from me, very much consider supporting me on Patreon.